2 years. And yeah, it's been a hard 2 years. How many of you lost people you loved and knew? I know many of you. I can't even believe that I'm speaking here because I know people amongst you who have been detained, who have been tortured, who have suffered. I can't even believe that I'm sitting here speaking to you because I don't deserve it. You should be speaking to us because you're the ones who sacrificed. And it's been 2 years and there have been casualties. But I think Hassan said it best. We haven't lost over 70,000 people. Over 70,000 people have gone to heaven. And I believe that. I really do. ولا تقولن الذين ماتوا الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله انهم اموات بل احياء عند ربهم يرزقون. They haven't died. They sacrificed because they might not see tomorrow, Syria's tomorrow, but you and I can see it. Can you see it? Do you remember Suhair Atassi when she went on CNN and when they asked her, how do you keep going? She said, I can see it. Can you see it? Can you see Syria rebuilt? In your eyes, can you close your eyes and see a Syria where everybody can live together peacefully, where people are free to voice their opinions? You have to be able to see it so that you can make it a reality. And don't let anyone tell you that it's not going to happen. Nobody said that the Syrian revolution would happen, but it happened. Some people say, was it worth it? Was it worth it to have so many people mutilated, so many people massacred? Was it really worth it? Have we forgotten where we came from though? Have you forgotten how people couldn't walk in the streets and say a single word against somebody who works for somebody, who works for somebody, who works for somebody, who works for the regime? Now they're standing in the streets and damning his soul. That's where we are today. That's a big deal. And what's interesting is that Sheikh Ahmed al-Siyasna, we met him, I think it was last weekend. People aren't asking how much longer. He told us he went and he visited the mother of a martyr. Her son died. And they went and they wanted to mourn, like give her their condolences. You know what she told him? She wasn't crying, she wasn't devastated, she wasn't sitting there beating herself, overwhelmed. She was like, Huwa lillah, Huwa lillah, Huwa lillah. My son isn't lost. My son is with God. And that's the mother of a martyr. He went and visited another house and this woman lost her husband. And people were worried, who's going to take care of you? We can take care of you, You know what he told her? She told him, she told the sheikh, she's like, the person who died, my husband who died, كان يأكل مثلي. He used to eat like me from God's provisions. The one who eats has died, but الرزاق, the one who provides, has not died. So don't worry about me. So these are the people who were there. These are our families and our friends and those who are suffering the most, and they have this faith. 2 years is nothing. Nothing. Don't ask how much longer. We are honored by this revolution. Honored that we get to take part in this. We always talk about 2 years ago was Hamza al-Khatib, right? You guys know what happened to Hamza al-Khatib. Don't forget it. 13-year-old child. Do we have any 13-year-olds here? Is there any 13-year-old here? At all? Who can come forward? 13-year-old? You know what they did to this 13-year-old? You can't recognize him. He had a full, beautiful face. They took this child and they tortured him. They electrocuted him. They whipped him. They went and they burned their cigarettes on his body. They burned his body. They cut off his private organs. They did everything imaginable to this child, and he was black and blue and not recognizable to his parents. You know who else suffered mutilation? Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. 13. What's your name? Omar and Tahir. How many Omars and Tahir, Muhammad and Ahmad, Ilyas, all these names, how many of those children? More than 800. And over 1,500 have been just women. 15,000 actually have been women and children. And they were mutilated, and the Prophet's uncle, his uncle Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib was also mutilated. The Prophet, have we forgotten how he suffered? Have we forgotten how they would come to Mecca while he was praying and throw the intestines of animals on him? And his daughter Fatima would cry. Have we forgotten how they beat him until at one point his lips were bruised and swollen, his His forehead was bleeding. His teeth were broken. That's our prophet. You think he wasn't persecuted? For 13 years. And then his follower, Sumayya, it was a woman who was the first martyr in Islam. Sumayya, they staked her out in the Arabian desert and they speared her in her private organs the way Hamza was also mutilated. And she died. Ammar, they put 2 horses and they pulled his body apart. Bilal, he stood in the desert and they laid him down in the scorching sun and put a boulder on his chest. And they told him, retract your statement. And he said, Ahadun ahad. Ahadun ahad. You're not the first nation to suffer. It is an honor to suffer in the footsteps of our prophets, including amongst them Isa alayhi salam. Nobody has followed Isa alayhi salam. Nobody suffered the way Isa alayhi salam suffered. There's a hadith about how much he suffered at the hands of Bani Israel. And we follow in their footsteps. That's an honor for us. Nobody said it would be easy. The truth was never going to be easy or cheap. It never was. And we're finally standing up. And you know what? We already have victory. They used to say, Ibn Taymiyyah, before he would go out to jihad, he would say, Mansureen, you are victorious. And they would say, Ul insha'Allah, say insha'Allah. And he would say, insha'Allah, insha'Allah. But it's not just a statement. He says it's going to happen. It's guaranteed. Wallahi Mansureen. Because even if it takes 8 or 13 years, there was victory for the Prophet. And he returned to Mecca. And there is going to be victory, inshallah, and they can all see it. But when there is victory, we do it. If we're claimed to follow the Prophet, then the way he entered Fath Mecca, we must go back to Syria. He entered and he gave general pardon to those who abused him and killed and beat and tortured. Pardon. He went in with humility as a conqueror. He went back to the people who had done wrong with him and he did right to them. So that is how we will be victorious in Syria, with a nature and spirit of grace, not that of vengeance or revenge. We will rebuild it on love, not out of hatred for what happened, on the future, not on the past. We have already had victory because there are people living free. Assad has taken our homes. He's bombed them. They're gone. We have nowhere to go home to. He has taken our wealth. Things, businesses that we spent our whole lives with, he's taken it. He's taken our children, our parents, our brothers, all of their lives. You know what he hasn't taken? He hasn't taken our obedience. We live and we die free, and that's the greatest victory.